Hello, YouTube audience. Welcome back to Movies I Watched in 2025. It's now time again to talk about movies. You know, I love talking about movies.
You know, I love to talk, film, discuss, to critique.
And this episode is an extra scary episode because we're talking about October, the month of Halloween. So this time around, I decided to only watch horror movies. And you know what that means. Horror movies all month long. Nothing but scary movies. You know, that's what this video is. That's what I'm doing this time. There's a lot of movies this time, you know, so get ready. Turn up your TVs and get ready to be scared.
Enjoy the horror fun, Doctor.
Let's waste no time with this stupid intro and let's just talk about the movies. The first movies that I watched in October is a franchise. One of my favorite horror franchises of all time. I'm of course talking about Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead franchise. Let's start with The Evil Dead. Of course, you know, I don't know why I wouldn't start with The Evil Dead. It's the first movie. The movie starts with 5 young adults going on a vacation. You got Scott, his girlfriend Shelly, Ashley J. Williams, and his girlfriend Linda, and also Ash's sister, Cheryl. And pretty much these young adults are on their way to a creepy cabin in the middle of the woods, so they can party hardy. But when they get there, they realize something's a little bit off. And that's because this cabin is surrounded by evil.
It's supposed to be one of these on here.
Eventually, they go into the cellar of this cabin and find a bunch of weird objects.
This kind of looks like your old girlfriend.
What?
Like this book, the Book of the Dead, the Necronomicon Ex Mortis. And they also find a tape recording, and they decide to play it because they're smart. And on this tape recorder, an archaeological scientist, he's talking about the book, and he decides to read passages of the book out loud. Passages that fully unleash the evil.
Shut it off!
Kanda!
And after that, the evil comes, literally. Cheryl gets raped by a tree. Yeah, there's a tree rape scene in this movie. That's how you know it's good.
Shut up!
And pretty much as the movie goes on, all of these characters become possessed by Kandarian demons, Deadites. All of them except one, Ashley J. Williams. And pretty much throughout the movie, and also this franchise, I guess, Ash has to take care of all of these demons and all of this evil. All while this evil tries to torture him in all these different crazy ways.
Oh, you bastards! Why are you torturing me like this? Why?
And I mean, the first Evil Dead movie, I think, is something really special. I mean, rewatching it after a couple years, you know, this movie is really special. It's an independent movie, very low budget. But because it's done by a filmmaker who is really talented, you know, Sam Raimi, it is able to pull off being one of the creepiest, awesomest, one of the best horror movies ever made, in my opinion. And personally for me, you know, this movie means a lot to me. In the March video, I talked about how Grave Encounters was kind of the first horror movie to ease me into liking horror movies. But The Evil Dead, you know, this movie is the first horror movie that made me absolutely love horror movies. And not only that, this is also the first movie that made me realize that I want to be a filmmaker. I remember watching this in middle school and seeing all these crazy bloody effects and just thinking to myself, like, oh my god, I want to do something like this. And because of how low budget it is, it's very inspirational. It is such an impressive movie with how low budget it is. Especially with how awesome the concept of this movie is. The whole concept of Evil Dead is like zombies mixed with demons, mixed with the paranoia of the Thing.
Ash, help me. Let me out of here. I'm all right now. I'm all right. Unlock this chain and let me out.
Never trust anyone.
I'm all right now, Ashley! Oh, you bastards!
It's really well done. Like, Sam Raimi, he is a fantastic director. You know, of course, everyone knows him from his Spider-Man movies, and don't get me wrong, you know, the Spider-Man movies are easily the best superhero movies ever made. But, you know, The Evil Dead, you know, his first movie, probably one of the most impressive first movies from a filmmaker ever. It's right up there with Night of the Living Dead. Filmmaking-wise, they're able to pull off so much with so little. There is a lot of great shots in this movie, a lot of really well-done camera work that is really unlike any other horror movie at the time, especially any other, like, slasher movie. Because in a weird way, this movie is a slasher movie, except the slasher killer actually has a reason for killing his friends. They're demons. You know, you gotta kill them.
What are we gonna do?
We're gonna bury her.
You can't bury Shelley. She's a friend of ours.
Ah, she's dead.
And that's another thing that I love about this movie is Sam Raimi's twisted humor. Because even though this movie is scary, I still think to this day it's a very unsettling movie.
Does she keep making those horrible noises?
I don't know.
Her eyes. For God's sake, what happened to her eyes?
This movie is also really funny, you know, it all depends on how you watch it. And sometimes the movie switches from like comedy to horror so seamlessly. It's like a comedy at the expense of the main character. He is the butt of the joke in this movie. The comedy comes from how absurd and how fucked up it can get for him.
We'll all be going home together. Wouldn't you like to be going home? Bet you'd like that, wouldn't you?
And that kind of makes the movie even more scary. It's fucking great, you know, this movie is really well done, really well directed, really well written. There's a nice little through line about the power of love, you know. Love saves the day, love is the thing that matters. It's perfect. It's fucking perfect. Give Sam Raimi 1,000 awards. And I mean, I would give The Evil Dead a 10 out of 10, of course. You know, this is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. This movie is insanely good, insanely special, and it will always hold a special place in my heart. So how about we make a toast to The Evil Dead? Let's do a toast.
As a Greek friend of mine once said, he said, Oh, okay. Nis. Tu tarim.
Which means?
Party down! Yeah!
And after The Evil Dead was released, of course, it was a big hit. Everyone was saying it was the scariest movie since, Birth of a Nation. Is that a funny punchline to that setup? Hell no! Stephen King even said it was pretty good, you know? Of course the guy who wrote about an underage gangbang would love tree sex.
Shut up!
But, you know, because The Evil Dead was so good, a few years later, Sam Raimi would go on to create a sequel, Evil Dead 2. And if The Evil Dead was very special, I would say that Evil Dead 2 is full-on retarded in the best way possible. This movie starts where the last movie left off, kind of. Not really, but kind of. There is kind of like a weird opening to this movie that kind of retells the events of the first movie, but also kind of retcons some things. Like this time, Ash goes to the cabin with only his girlfriend. It's kind of confusing. I'll just let Bruce Campbell explain it for me.
We couldn't get the rights to our own movie, which is the most ridiculous thing ever. So we just shot a recap with different actors as though that was the recap, but people thought, what's with all, he's coming back to the same cabin with these new people? What? So there's a big debate of is Evil Dead 2 a remake or a sequel? It's a requel.
But pretty much after the events of the first movie, Ash gets possessed by the evil. But because it becomes daytime, he's able to overcome the possession. Good for him. But unfortunately, he's still at this fucking cabin in this haunted woods. And as the movie goes on, you see Ash continue to get tormented by evil, completely losing his mind in the process.
Give me back my head. Give me back my head!
And you cannot talk about Evil Dead 2 without mentioning how hilarious it is. This movie is pretty fucking funny, to the point where I would say that this is just a straight up comedy. It's way more a comedy than a horror movie.
You're going down. Chainsaw.
If the first movie was a comedy at the expense of the main character, then Evil Dead 2 is a comedy where the main character finally gets in on the joke by going insane, resulting in one of the greatest scenes ever put to film ever. And this movie is kind of like a Three Stooges-esque comedy, starring Ash and Evil. They fight with each other, they bicker with each other, it's classic. This movie also, of course, expands on the lore of the franchise, showing the daughter of the archaeological scientist from the first movie showing up to the cabin with a few other people. They find Ash there completely out of his mind with a chainsaw with blood next to it. Not a good look, not a good look. But their inclusion kind of forces Ash to try to, man up, to try to stop the evil, to become a hero or something. And it's very interesting, very batshit insane. I would say that this is like the definitive Evil Dead movie. Like if you had to watch any one of these movies, this is the one to watch. It's kind of scary, it's very funny, and it's just really fucking entertaining. The filmmaking of this movie is also pretty crazy, having a lot of special effects that you don't really see in a lot of movies. A lot of really weird shit is going on in this movie.
What the fuck's going on?
And honestly, I don't really know what else to say. This is a really great horror movie, but it's also a very perfect comedy, featuring probably one of the best performances ever put to film with Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell goes all out in this movie. He is so fucking good in this. And I mean, yeah, this is a movie about the classic battle between good and evil. And it kind of makes this case that, in order to beat evil, you have to become just as insane as evil. And maybe then, just then, maybe you have a fighting chance against it. Until a time portal opens up and teleports you to the Middle Ages. It's a piece of art that is so insane it's impossible to put into words. You just gotta watch it. And I would give Evil Dead 2 a 10 out of 10. Fuck it. I really, really like this movie. I think it's one of the most entertaining movies of all time. The Evil Dead 2, I love both of them. They're both great.
I'll swallow your soul! I'll swallow your soul! I'll swallow your soul!
Swallow this.
But when it comes to a franchise, you can't just make 2 movies, you gotta make 3 of them. So in 1992, Army of Darkness came out. the third Evil Dead movie. And this movie starts right where the second one left off. Ash gets teleported to the medieval times. No, not that medieval times, you know, the Middle Ages. And pretty much when he gets there, you know, after an encounter with a Deadite, he is seen as the Chosen One, which was actually alluded to in the last movie.
In 1300 AD, they called this man the hero from the sky. He was prophesied to have destroyed the evil.
Didn't do a very good job.
He's the one that has to destroy the evil. It's up to Ashley J. Williams. He has to get the Necronomicon Ex Mortis and say the magic words.
When thou retrievest the book from its cradle, you must recite the words Clatu Verata Nictu.
Clatu Verata Nictu, okay.
Well, repeat them.
I got it! I know your damn words, all right?
But you know, at this point, Ash is really sick of all of this shit. He doesn't want to be a hero, he just wants to go back home. And that's where a lot of the comedy of this movie comes from. It comes from Ash being a selfish asshole who doesn't really give a fuck about the medieval times.
Duke Ashale, Lord of the Northlands and leader of its peoples.
Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants. I got news for you, pal. You ain't leading but two things right now. Jack and shit. And Jack left town.
And he doesn't give a fuck about the people either. They're a bunch of primitive screwheads, as he calls them.
Sorry. Yeah, great. Get the fuck out of my face.
And pretty much as the movie goes on, Ash reluctantly does, you know, the hero's job until he decides to fully embrace the hero role and save the day, and it's a nice, heartwarming ending to this franchise. It's really fun, you know, I wouldn't say it's as good as The Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2. It kind of misses out on that sick, demented humor that is so prevalent in those two movies. Part of me wishes this movie was called The Medieval Dead and it had more blood and chainsaws. But honestly, it's fine, because this movie is still really funny. You know, if the first Evil Dead was a comedy where evil takes center stage, and Evil Dead 2 is a comedy where Ash and evil share the stage, then Army of Darkness is a comedy where Ash takes center stage. There's a reason why this movie starts with the words Bruce Campbell versus Army of Darkness. This movie almost feels more like a vehicle for Bruce Campbell just to be Bruce Campbell. To play this over-the-top, arrogant asshole who has to be the hero.
First you want to kill me, now you want to kiss me. Blow.
It's fun, you know, that's like the best word to describe this movie. It's fun. And it has a lot of great scenes in it, you know. The scene where Ash has to recite the magic words is hilarious.
Say the words. Clatu, Verata, necktie, nectar, nickel.
And it's also a pretty great scene because it actually is in line with Ash as a character. 2 movies might have passed since the original Evil Dead, but he still can't remember things.
Definitely an N-word.
I also kind of like how this movie starts with another retelling of events that also retcons things. Like this time they established that Ash worked at a retail store called S-Mart.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. This is my boomstick. It's a 12-gauge double-barreled Remington. Shop smart. Shop S-Mart.
I like how the main villain of this movie is Evil Ash, you know, he's going against his evil self. And it's really satisfying to see Ash finally take up the hero role, to finally, you know, stop evil once and for all.
One of us over. Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to Mama. Me? I'm through running. I say we stay here and fight it out.
And I mean, yeah, I don't really know what else to say. It's a great finale to this franchise. This whole franchise, it almost feels like a tragedy almost. The tragedy of Ash Williams. He starts out so simple as just like kind of like this awkward guy, and then he's forced into fighting evil, you know, after his girlfriend dies, after he can't trust anyone anymore, making him into a selfish asshole. But it's like a tragedy disguised as a comedy for the sake of the main character's sanity. And I think that's really fucking interesting, you know. This whole series is so much fun, and then just a really great series of movies. I love these movies. Movies. Shut up! You know, the whole series is about a character who goes through hell to come out the other side as a hero. And even though he becomes a selfish asshole, at least he still does the right thing.
Lady, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store.
Who the hell are you?
Name's Ash. Housewares.
And that right there is the most badass thing you can do. And you know, I would give Army of Darkness like a 8 or a 9 out of 10. I love this franchise, I love Bruce Campbell, I love Sam Raimi, and it's a very inspirational franchise. You know, it goes from like a very low budget movie to kind of like a blockbuster at the end of the day. It would be so great if this video was just an Evil Dead video, but you know, of course there is more movies to talk about.
Sure, I could have stayed in the past. Could have even been king. But in my own way, I am king.
Hail to the king, baby.
The next movie that I watched in October is Night School. This movie is kind of a slasher movie that is set around a night school, kind of. The movie starts with a teacher's assistant talking to this little girl on a merry-go-round.
So that's what you want to be when you grow up? A school teacher? Well, why, for heaven's sakes?
Because I like you.
Well, I like you too.
But after everyone leaves and she's still on this merry-go-round, a guy driving a motorcycle comes in and kills her, decapitates her on the merry-go-round. And that's actually the best kill in the movie. Yeah, the first kill is the best one. I guess you got to start strong, I guess. And pretty much after that, this detective guy is on the case, and he's working with this goofy cop guy.
Don't you ever take your job seriously.
Oh, come on, Judd. If we did that, we'd end up in the funny farm.
And as the movie goes on, this mysterious motorcyclist continues to kill women and decapitate them and put the heads in water or something. And the detectives are on the case, and they're trying to find out who it is. And as it goes on, you know, you find out all of these women were taught by the same teacher, this anthropologist guy who's sleeping with the students, sleeping with the women who are being killed. He has like a British assistant named Eleanor or something. Oh my god. Who cares? This movie is technically a slasher movie, but it doesn't really feel like a slasher movie. It's not trashy enough to be a slasher movie. You know, when I think of a slasher movie, I think of something like McDonald's. You know, it's like fast food. And this movie feels like a fast food restaurant trying to be a 5-star restaurant. Or maybe it's a 5-star restaurant trying to be a fast food restaurant. Either way, you know, this movie is insanely bland. And the way the story goes, it makes the movie feel more like a giallo movie than a slasher movie. But it's a giallo movie directed by an American, which means all of the style and kookiness that's in those Italian giallo films is completely missing.
That sounds boring.
I mean, I don't know, it's just like, I didn't really care about this movie at all. I like slasher movies, but this one was just kind of boring. So boring, in fact, that this is the only movie in this entire series where I had to take out my phone and look at it while watching. I know that is like a cardinal sin of watching movies, but you know, I just couldn't help myself. This movie was not pulling me in, it wasn't interesting me. And it's kind of a shame because I don't think this movie is bad at all. I do like how melancholic this movie kind of feels. It actually is pretty sympathetic to its characters, which is unlike most slasher movies. And it does kind of feel like this movie is trying to say something about, you know, like primal urges or something.
Modern man has only to take a short step to wind up in the primeval jungle of his ancestors.
This movie is just so stale. The kills in this movie are extremely lame. You know, when you're watching a slasher movie, you want to see some really over-the-top gore. But all of the kills in this movie are like really stupid. There is one scene involving the slasher stuff that is actually really great. After the motorcyclist decapitates this waitress at like this diner or something, there's a great scene where the owner of the diner is like feeding these guys this stew or something, and the guy's like, "Hey, there's a hair in my stew."
Hey, Gus.
Yeah?
Did you ever thinking of wearing a hairnet when you made the stew?
Why, what's the matter?
What's the matter?
So then the owner of the restaurant goes into the back to check the stew and everything, and the whole time, you're waiting until he finds the head. That scene should have went on for at least 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes of him just like looking around and you expecting the head, but it's just nothing. But I mean, you know, this movie, it kind of tricks you, you know, you go into it thinking it's going to be a slasher movie, and instead it feels more like a soap opera, a drama about this teacher sleeping with all these students, having all these affairs, all while his British assistant gets really jealous. But like I said, I feel like this movie may be trying to say something about, you know, primal urges or whatever, kind of saying that the urge to kill and the urge to fuck are all under the same primal umbrella, which is kind of interesting.
Now, why would you do a thing like that?
I think because it was someone we both knew and she didn't want me to know she was having an affair with him.
A married man, maybe.
How could anyone do such a thing?
I don't know what to tell you, Kim. Maybe what your professor said just now is true. We've all only just stepped out of the primal jungle.
And maybe it's trying to say that's why love is so important, because, you know, without love, sex is just as bad as killing someone. Maybe that's what it's trying to say. I'm gonna give Night School like a 3 out of 5, I guess. You know, it's not bad, it's just kind of lame.
So who'd you expect, the headhunter?
The next movie that I watched in October is a sequel to a movie I already talked about in the series before. I'm talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
That's fair, you've done it again!
Like I said, I already talked about the first one way back in the March video. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think, came out in 1974, while Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 came out in 1986. So a little bit over a decade since the first one, and a lot of things have changed. Of course, the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre was really influential for the slasher genre. It kind of created the slasher genre in a way. People realized that ghosts, ghouls, goblins, they're not as scary as human beings with knives. Humans, the scariest creature of them all. And of course, as slasher movies went on, they became way more exploitative, way more sensationalist, way more over the top just in general.
It's in the air! It's what the public wants!
I don't want to hear that again!
And I think it's important to mention that because Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 almost feels like a commentary on that. And this movie was directed by the same guy who did the first one, Tobe Hooper, and this movie kind of feels like him trying to comment on the modern slasher movies at the time. The movie starts with these two rascals driving around, and while they're driving around, they end up calling their favorite radio DJ Stretch. Yeah, that's her name. Her name is Stretch. I'd like to stretch her.
Shut up!
And while they're on the phone with Stretch, eventually the Chainsaw Boys come in, and they do a classic Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Afterwards, Dennis Hopper enters the movie, playing a character named Lefty.
You know why I'm here.
Yes, there's something about chainsaw killers, your brother's kids killed. But that was 14 years ago, sir, way down in South Texas.
You remember the guy in the wheelchair? Yeah, that's his nephew. And after all this time, Lefty is really bitter about what happened. And even though no one else believes in the Chainsaw Boys, he sure does, and he wants revenge. And of course, since Stretch was on the phone with the last victims, and also recorded it for a radio station and stuff, she teams up with Lefty, to try to help him.
Don't you get in my way.
No, I am already right in the middle of this. This is my chance to stop playing headbanging music and do something real.
Meanwhile, the head of the Chainsaw family is getting an award for the best chili in Texas.
The second year in a row. This year, Drayton, you've got to tell the secret of that fabulously tasty chili.
No secret. It's the meat. Don't skimp on the meat. Whoop, whoop. It's one of those hard-shell peppercorns.
And as the movie goes on, all these plot lines converge and shit happens, and this movie gets pretty fucking crazy.
It's the devil's playground.
And I absolutely love this movie. I think this is one of the best horror movies ever. The best way I can describe this movie is it's like fighting fire with fire. It kind of feels like Tobe Hooper criticizing slasher movies, but at the same time relishing in all of the things that make slasher movies so popular. Blood, gore, crazy lighting, over-the-top characters, and sexual innuendo.
S-C-E-X. Sex.
This movie is insanely satirical, and I think it really sets it apart from any other slasher movie at the time. It almost feels like each character in this movie represents something different. Like the Chainsaw Boys, the whole family. They represent both the audiences who absolutely love slasher movies, but also the people who make the slasher movies.
Hurry up, Leatherface! Hurry up, get that bitch!
They represent the degenerates who profit off of these movies.
I gotta say, I love this town. This town loves prime meat.
Then you have Stretch in this movie, who kind of feels like an audience member who doesn't understand the appeal of slasher movies. So her arc throughout this movie kind of feels like the general response to watching a slasher movie. And then you have Lefty, who in my opinion represents this movie. Or maybe even Tobe Hooper himself. He's a guy who wants revenge and wants to stop the Chainsaw Boys. But at the same time, he believes in order to do so, he has to become just as insane as them. There's a great scene where Dennis Hopper goes to buy some chainsaws, and the whole time the shopkeeper is just loving every second of it, loving every second of Dennis Hopper fucking up this wood with his chainsaw. And then later in the movie there's also a chainsaw battle, which is epic. There's also kind of like a funny little thing going on in this movie where Leatherface kind of falls in love with Stretch, and of course for the sake of her survival she goes along with it, and it's really fucking funny.
Are you really good?
Leatherface, he's just a big baby, he just wants some love. Love and sex.
Turned traitor for a piece of tail. You got one choice, boy. Sex or the saw. Sex is, well, nobody knows. But the saw is family.
This movie also introduces probably one of the best horror movie characters of all time, with Chop Top, who's like this Vietnam veteran with like a metal plate in his head.
Ow, 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 he did it, my plate. Oh, my brain is burning. Non-flashback.
His character is a good representation of why this movie is so great. His character is really funny and over the top, but at the same time, he's also genuinely unsettling.
So this is Radioland, huh? The infinite eternal, the waves through the ether fuzz roll on forever. Roar! Can't close that. Hi, I know what you're thinking. This is weird, huh? But I can handle it. You're my fave.
This movie is just so weird. It's awesome. It's a movie that knows exactly what it is while also trying to fight what it is. And the final shot of this movie is probably one of my favorite final shots to a movie ever. It feels like a warrior cry for all of the final girls of these slasher movies. And like I said, Stretch's arc throughout this movie kind of feels like how it feels to watch your first slasher movie. At first you're like, oh god, no, blood, gore, kills, no. But eventually you start to fight back against that way of thinking, making you almost just as insane as the slasher killers.
Get that bitch, Leatherface! Get that bitch!
And yeah, I mean, this movie is fucking awesome. I mean, it really is. Really great filmmaking throughout the whole thing. This movie is able to be way more entertaining and way more scary and unsettling than any of the slasher movies it's kind of commenting on. And of course, all of the special effects work in this movie, all of the blood and gore, it was done by the legend himself, Tom Savini, which just makes this movie 1,000 times better. And I would give the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 a 10 out of 10.
Maybe it's time to just shut down. Time to shut down the show, yeah, pull the plug.
The next movie that I watched in October is The Conjuring. The Conjuring is a newer movie, and when I say newer, I mean newer than the movies that I usually watch. It came out in 2013, and I remember being in school when this movie dropped, and a lot of people saying it was terrifying. Now granted, they were just a bunch of kids, but people said this movie was terrifying. I remember in high school asking someone what was the scariest horror movie that they've ever seen, and they said either The Conjuring or Insidious. And I always thought those were the same movie. But that doesn't matter anymore, because now I have seen The Conjuring in October 2025. The opening of this movie does a pretty good job at setting up, the main characters. It starts with that damn doll. That creepy little Annabelle doll. And it basically starts with these teenagers talking about, owning the doll and stuff, talking to a pair of ghost hunters.
Firstly, there's no such thing as Annabelle, and there never was.
Ghosts don't possess such power. I think what we have here is something extremely manipulative. It's something inhuman.
It's something demonic.
I'm sorry, they're demon hunters.
What are you guys? I mean, what do people call you?
Well, we've been called demonologists. It's one name for us. Ghost hunters, paranormal researchers.
Kooks. But we prefer to be known simply as Ed and Lorraine Warren.
And yeah, this movie is about Ed and Lorraine Warren, who actually were real people. This movie, this whole series, The Conjuring, it's based off of a true story.
What?
This is bullshit.
So in Hollywood terms, that means they took a bunch of real events and made them a bit more crazy for, modern audiences. And I think this movie is fine. I think it's okay, for a modern horror movie, it's okay. I've seen better. And I would actually go ahead and say that the real story behind this movie is actually much more interesting than the movie itself. This movie got me to do some research, on Ed and Lorraine Warren, because they were real paranormal investigators. And they were actually so legit that the church would actually call them up whenever they would have some paranormal issue. They would get the Warrens to go check out these paranormal incidents to see if they're legit, which is very, very interesting. When it comes to talking about The Conjuring and also like the Warrens just in general, you kind of have to give your opinions on if you believe these demonic forces actually exist. And do I believe that demons exist? Yes, I do, actually. I believe that demons exist. I believe that there is a god, or at least a higher power. I think a lot of this stuff is rooted in reality. There's a great quote from the Warrens I'm going to read right now, because I think it's kind of important, for this whole Conjuring business. Diabolical forces are formidable. These forces are eternal, and they exist today. The fairy tale is true. The devil exists, God exists, and for us as people, our very destiny hinges upon which one we elect to follow. A very bold and impactful statement, and I do think it is true. I think this quote is pretty based. And when it comes to the Conjuring universe, I guess these movies also believe in this, way of thinking. Honestly, this movie kind of feels like a child's imagination. A child's imagination after you tell them about Ed and Lorraine Warren and their battles against demons. Because even though some of the things in this movie did actually happen, supposedly, there is also a lot of embellishment going on. This movie is not completely true. The real case behind this movie is actually pretty anticlimactic. But hey, I don't talk about real life, I talk about movies. Or maybe they're the same thing.
What?
Anyway, The Conjuring. Let's talk about The Conjuring. Let's talk about the movie The Conjuring. Like I said, this movie is fine. It's okay. It's a decent horror movie. The movie is about a family who moves into a new house, and of course, the house, it's haunted.
There's ghosts in here.
And after things get a little bit too hairy, they finally call up the Warrens, and they come in and they investigate. And, yeah, it's The Conjuring. Or as I like to call this movie, cheap jump scares galore.
It's standing right behind you.
This is a movie targeted to a early 2010s audience. This movie has a lot of cliche moments, I wouldn't call this movie smart by any means. And it's kind of a shame because I can imagine this movie being made in like the late 70s, early 80s. And I can imagine a lot of the scenes in this movie being done in that time. And I can just imagine just like, how much better it would have looked. And I would say this movie is kind of lame whenever it's just the family stuff. Like, I know that stuff is supposed to be scary, but, I wasn't scared. I'm a man, I don't get scared. But as soon as the Warrens enter the equation, it gets really interesting. I like how this movie shows the different perspectives of, this demon hunting stuff.
For a guy who doesn't believe, you looked a little freaked out when that door slammed shut.
It must have been a draft.
There's a great scene where they go visit a house that someone says is haunted, but really, it's just faulty piping.
So, this place isn't haunted?
No, it rarely is. There's usually always some kind of rational explanation.
Addressing the fact that some of this stuff, could just be a giant facade. It could just be your mind playing tricks on you. And I guess you could say that is kind of a running theme throughout this movie. They talk about in this movie how demons are attracted to people with fucked up lives, pretty much. People who are going through a lot of mental anguish.
Take Maurice here. He's a French-Canadian farmer, had nothing more than a third-grade education, yet after he was possessed, spoke some of the best Latin I'd ever heard, sometimes backwards. He'd been molested by his father, who had also tortured him repeatedly.
And because of that, it kind of recontextualizes the whole possession of the mother in this movie. So by the time the mother takes the kids and try to bring them back to the house, it kind of feels more like a drama. A drama about a woman going crazy and is trying to kill her kids. Even though she's not crazy and it's actually demons, goddammit. And by the end of the movie, the demon stuff, it's all solved by the power of God and love. Love and family. Family, it's important. This movie, it's about family.
It's about family, and that's what's so powerful about it.
And even if you are a skeptic and you don't believe in demons and all that stuff, and you look at the mother's possession in this movie as more so just like mental health issues or whatever, the movie still kind of works, because if you're going through a bunch of mental health issues, the best thing you can do is stop thinking with your brain and instead start thinking with your heart. And that's a nice little message, It's just a shame that this movie is so fucking lame. I just don't like the look of newer movies, and this movie is a prime example of that. I would give The Conjuring a 3 out of 5. I definitely recommend looking into the real stories behind the Conjuring movies. Those are way more interesting. It's time to talk about another trauma movie. I watched Frankenhooker. Yeah, that's the title, Frankenhooker. This movie is about a guy named Jeffrey, and he's a scientist. He creates these twisted creations, like a brain with an eyeball.
What is he? I'm not sure.
And he also has a girlfriend, his girlfriend Elizabeth, who he is in love with. But one day at his girlfriend's dad's birthday party, he gifts his girlfriend's dad an automatic lawnmower, which ends up killing Elizabeth, chopping her up into a bunch of pieces.
It was this power mower that brought a quick end to the life of 21-year-old bride-to-be Elizabeth Shelley. Like wood through a mulcher, the girthful fiancée disappeared beneath the blades of the berserk mower that sent her personality raining down upon the horrified birthday revelers.
Of course, this causes Jeffrey to spiral into depression. He lost his love, Elizabeth, his girlfriend. He's sad.
I seem to be disassociating myself from reality more and more each day. I'm antisocial. Do you want a sandwich?
One of the ways he copes is by giving himself multiple lobotomies.
What? Some people need drugs. Some people need booze. Just need a little surgical assistance.
But he refuses to let his girlfriend go. He decides he's gonna try to bring her back to life. Sexier than she was before. But of course, he needs the body parts. Where is he gonna get these body parts? He decides to kill a bunch of hookers and take their body parts, so that way Elizabeth can have a sexy body. And as the movie goes on, you know, there's a Frankenhooker and, yeah.
This crack shit's killing him. This super crack will get the job done a lot quicker.
This movie is from Frank Hettenlotter, who also made Brain Damage, which I talked about in the May video. I really, really like Brain Damage. I think that movie is really great. Frank Hettenlotter is a really great filmmaker because he makes like these really exploitative movies, but he uses those sleazy aspects to make something that is genuinely smart and somewhat emotional. That's kind of what I got out of Brain Damage, and Frankenhooker is kind of similar, except it's a trauma movie.
Whoa! Holy shit! What's this? Holy shit! It's jumps! It's so many jumps! Holy shit!
If I could describe this movie, I would say it's uncomfortably hilarious. It's a very weird movie, because even though it is a trauma movie, like this is definitely a trauma movie.
Oh no, not the devil's music! Please, it's telling you to do things you shouldn't be doing!
Safe sex is for wimps.
This movie is also really smart, you know, definitely way smarter than your average trauma movie, which makes you take the movie a little bit more serious, but if you're trying to take a trauma movie seriously, you're gonna end up in the funny farm. This story, though, is pretty fucking genius. You know, Jeffrey, he's a scientist, he's a doctor, even though he was kicked out of many medical schools.
Why don't you go back to medical school? Medical schools upset me, Mother.
But he's also a man, so, you know, when he's trying to bring back his girlfriend, he's also trying to make her, like, very sexy and stuff. He's basically trying to make love out of lust. Shut up. Oh my god. He's basically trying to make love out of lust. But the problem is that if you're trying to create love out of lust, what you're gonna get is a Frankenhooker.
Want a date? Going out? Looking for some action? Need some company?
It's pretty smart. You know, this movie, it is intelligent. It is an intelligent movie about a Frankenhooker. All of the characters are pretty great. I really love the actress who plays Elizabeth. Her performance as Frankenhooker is amazing. I love that performance.
Pretzel's good.
Hey, babe, for your own good, go easy on those pretzels.
I also really like Jeffrey in this movie. I think he's really funny. His actor's doing a good job.
Have you seen him around here?
Oh yeah, 4 of them. We haven't had 2 for myself.
What are you talking about? What are you, some kind of a Swede? You're talking to me in Swedish in Times Square. Elizabeth!
I think my only problem with this movie is that there's not enough emotions. You know, I was expecting more emotions with this premise. There is kind of an underlining sad aspect to this movie, but it's all undercut by really hilarious comedy. This movie doesn't allow you to sympathize with the characters because it's just, you know, it's trying to be a fun romp. And that brings me to the ending, which, you know, oh boy. What an ending. I do like the ending because it does kind of frame the movie as like this cautionary tale. The cautionary tale of being obsessed with your work, turning you into your work, which that in itself says another thing that is a little bit more interesting. All about trying to craft your own personal dream girl. Basically saying that obsessing over this dream girl, this perfect woman in your head, if you obsess over crafting the perfect bitch, you will become the bitch. Very poetic. You know, this movie, it's like Shakespeare. This movie is really, really funny. You know, this is like a really great comedy. It's so engaging with its comedy, too, because you're just constantly waiting to see what the movie's gonna do next. It's a great movie. I would give Frankenhooker a 4 out of 5.
Utterly awesome.
The next movie that I watched in October is Dead of Night.
You can die. You promised, Andy. You promised you'd come back.
This movie is about a guy named Andy. The movie starts during a battle scene in war. Andy is a soldier and he's fighting the enemies in the jungle. But then he gets shot and dies. His family is anxiously waiting for his return.
I know you're all right. You come home. Andy, come home to me. Promise that you promised.
until they find out that he's dead. All hope's lost, you know, everything sucks, Andy's dead. But then he shows up at the house, he's alive. But Andy's acting a little bit strange. I mean, he just came back from war, so of course he is.
They actually said that my son was dead.
I was.
But there was also a murder that took place of a trucker. He was given a ride to a soldier. Suspicious. The family tries to enjoy Andy's return, but of course Andy, you know, he's a weirdo. He's acting strange. He strangles a dog in front of a bunch of kids.
Son of a bitch!
And as the movie goes on, you find out that Andy is some sort of demon monster guy who kills people and gets high off of their blood.
What? Boy, they really rip them up, don't they, Doc?
They? They? Yeah, they really do.
So obviously this movie is a metaphor for, you know, the effects of war on veterans. Returning home to their family, only for their family to find out that, you know, they're fucked up in the head. They're monsters. Evil demon monsters. And I actually really, really liked this movie. This movie was really fucking good. It's not very subtle with its metaphor, but the filmmaking here is really great. This movie actually feels very George A. Romero-esque. This feels like a Romero movie. Not just because Tom Savini is on makeup and special effects, which is awesome, but also because this movie is a very sympathetic and sentimental story. Even though Andy is supposed to be the monster of this movie, the big bad guy, this movie still is able to make you sympathize with him. You sympathize with him and you fear him.
I just came by to shoot the breeze. You invited me, Doc, remember?
He didn't want to become an evil demon monster that gets high off of blood. It was thrust upon him because of war. And this movie actually works way better as a family drama about a son returning home from war, rather than a straight-up horror movie. Even though I would say this movie is way more unsettling than most other horror movies that I've seen. There's a great scene where Andy goes to a doctor in the middle of the night, and the whole scene is just dripping with suspense and tension.
I want you to know, Doc, that I'm in perfect health. There's not a living soul in better health than I am. I don't have to worry about getting sick, or old, or tired, or hungry, or anything.
And I think the moment that I realized this movie was something special was when Andy says,
"I died for you, Doc. Why shouldn't you return the favor?"
The main actor who plays Andy is doing such a great job in this movie. He's very expressive with his facial reactions. And I mean, this whole movie is just so unnerving and kind of just sad overall. It's a very tragic movie. And I think it's a movie that's somewhat actually relatable. Because I mean, of course, you know, I'm not a veteran, I've never been in war, nor do I want to be in war. But I feel like everyone goes through their own personal battles, their own personal wars, their own personal hells. And when every day feels like hell, you know, eventually you start coming up with ways to cope with that. Ways to protect yourself from it. Shutting yourself off emotionally. Trying to, you know, hide your heart.
Andy, there isn't any heartbeat, Doc. No heartbeat.
But what happens when that personal hell and that personal war stops? What happens when life starts to actually feel good again? The easy answer, and the answer that seems right, is obviously finally embracing being happy, finally embracing having a good life. But the more realistic outcome is that you just continue doing the things you did to cope with your own personal hell. You continue to think in those ways, you continue to shut yourself off from everyone else, making you seem like a monster to everyone else around you.
You've changed.
Everyone changes eventually.
And I really love that premise. You know, I think this movie is genuinely emotional. You know, I think the ending, even though it is very horrific, the ending to me actually is devastatingly sad. The ending is sad, it's fucked up, and it's kind of funny, and you know, in an ironic way. This is one of those perfect little horror movies. You know, it's a little hidden gem. It is a great horror movie, and it's also a great family drama. A drama about a family trying to hold on to the memory of their son, hoping that he can come back and everything will be beautiful and happy again, but unfortunately, it's too late.
Won't be late, will you, Andy?
And I would give Dead of Night like a 4 or a 4.5 out of 5. It's a little special horror movie. I like it.
You still want to go to the drive-in?
What's playing?
Who watches? Right, Andy?
Right, Bob.
That's the Andy I used to know.
The next movie that I watched in October is Them. This movie is a 50s monster B movie, and you're probably wondering, what's the monster? Well, it's them, of course. The monster's them.
Them.
The movie starts with two policemen going around New Mexico looking for crimes. And eventually they come across a young little girl who's traumatized, walking away from home. They pick her up and they get to her home only to find that her home is in ruins. Something happened here. Something maybe involving them.
What was that? I don't know. Must have been the wind.
And then the two police guys, they end up going to the gas station to see if things are wrong over there. And yes, they are. They find the gas station attendant, Old Man Jenkins or whatever. He's dead, and his gun is all bent up.
Well, that Gramps got off 4 shots from his .30-30 before the killer did this to the gun. And Blackburn was a crack shot. He could hit anything he could see. So unless your maniac was armored like a battleship, there's no maniac in this case.
Because he was attacked. Attacked by them. But while they're at the gas station, the main cop guy's partner, he gets attacked and killed by them. And then an FBI guy shows up and he's like, I'm gonna help you guys find out what them is. And he sends these footprints to, you know, some scientists so they can know what them is. The scientists show up, the doctors, you know, they're gonna help find what's them.
Now look, we're growing up. There's no need to play footsie with us. As a matter of fact, we resent it. Now, if you people know what this thing is, Doctor, I suggest you tell us. We're assigned to this case too, you know.
They go find the young girl who was traumatized, and she's talking about them. And then they decide to go back into the desert to try to find out what them is.
Before we do any more visiting any place, I want to know exactly what this it is.
Gentlemen, I understand your impatience.
And then while they're in the desert, them shows up. It's giant ants. Big giant ants. And yeah, that is what this movie is. It is a monster B movie from the 50s about giant ants. Ants that became so big after, you know, nuclear testing and stuff. You know, the nuclear war. You guys remember World War II? 50s audiences definitely remember World War II. And honestly, this movie is just, you know, it's good. It's a good little monster movie. I wouldn't say it's anything special. You know, this definitely feels like the type of monster movie that you would see in a drive-in theater. You know, you bring your girlfriend along with you, you sit in the car to go see this, you know, scary monster movie. And whenever there's talking scenes, you know, you lean over and you start making out with your girlfriend.
Who watches? Right, Andy?
Right, Bob.
And then when the monster shows up, you stop making out and you point at the screen and you're like, look, honey, giant ants. That's what this movie is. It is a classic monster movie that you watch with your honey. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a honey. So, you know, I just kind of watched this while I was eating some steak. You know, I ate my dinner while watching this. And I thought it was pretty enjoyable. You know, I think the first half of this movie is actually really fucking great. There's a lot of really great building of suspense in the first half, and it's like constantly escalating events, and you know, you're interested. You know, it's cool. They end up having to go into the giant ant nest, you know, this giant ant hill, to go investigate to see if they killed all the ants and everything. It's awesome. The giant ant puppets look really great in this movie. I really like the look of these giant ants. But then when you get to the second half of the movie, it feels like just an excuse to, you know, just to keep it going. Some of the ants escaped, so now the government, the army, the cops, they gotta act like exterminators to try to find these ants and take them down. It almost kind of feels like an X-Files episode at points, except it's missing my wife, Dana Scully. You know, they interview a bunch of people who might have seen these giant ants.
Ants? I'd like to get out of here.
And they try to shut them down so no one knows about it, so they can prevent hysteria.
Weird story.
Well, that's why your government would appreciate it if you kept him here, so he doesn't get any publicity.
The government?
It was cool. You know, it was a cool little movie. You know, I think taking these insects and making them big, it's a classic, tried and true way to make for a scary monster movie. Because insects are scary. Bugs are scary. And they're even more scary if they're gigantic.
Gigantic ants were discovered.
I guess you could say this movie is about, like, you know, entering the nuclear age, the effects of using nuclear technologies or whatever. But really, at the end of the day, this movie is just, you know, big ants. Big ants, the movie. Gigantic ants. Huge ants. Get these ants away from me. They're huge.
It's them, all right.
And I would give them like a 7 out of 10, I guess. You know, big ants.
Ants are the only creatures on Earth.
What?
The next movie that I watched in October is Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween.
Shut up!
Halloween 3 is a conspiracy mystery horror movie, starring Tom Atkins as the main character. It's about a company called Silver Shamrock who sells these Halloween masks.
Irish Halloween masks?
California? You never know.
And throughout the movie, Tom Atkins slowly uncovers a mystery that is too crazy for anyone to believe. Now you're probably wondering, where the fuck is Michael Myers? A Halloween movie without Michael Myers? That's blasphemy. Well, the first Halloween movie was done by John Carpenter, who is a masterful horror director, one of the best out there. And in a way, Halloween was kind of the first big, proper slasher movie. It's kind of the reason why Friday the 13th exists.
I had thought of this title some time ago called Friday the 13th. And I said to myself, if I had a film called Friday the 13th, I could sell that.
And Sean called me up and said, Halloween is making incredible money at the box office, let's rip it off. That is keeping it real.
Which, of course, Friday the 13th is kind of like the bare minimum standard for what a slasher movie in the 80s should be.
Some folks have a strange idea of entertainment.
So, of course, Halloween 1, very influential, very popular, and you know what that means? Sequel time, baby! And Halloween 2 was made. And I actually kind of like Halloween 2, you know, it's not as good as the first one, but it is definitely a better hospital slasher movie than that other one that I talked about that one time. Halloween 2 also has maybe one of my favorite slasher movie scenes in a movie ever, and we all know what scene that is. I'm talking about the scene where that random kid dies in the worst way possible, all because the police thought he was Michael Myers, because he was dressed just like him. Great slasher movie scene, you know, it's right up there with the wheelchair death from Friday the 13th Part 2. And of course, after Halloween 2, the studio wanted another Halloween movie, but John Carpenter was done with Michael Myers. He did not want to do anything with him anymore. So he agreed to produce a third Halloween movie as long as Michael Myers wasn't involved, making the Halloween series into more of like an anthology series, like The Twilight Zone, or for the younger kids, Goosebumps. Which honestly, I think the idea of like a Halloween anthology series is pretty fucking dope. I've never really liked Michael Myers as like a horror icon. The whole point of the first Halloween movie and the reason why it's so scary is because Michael Myers is just some guy. He's some fucked up dude who wants to kill people. That's it. So Michael Myers as like a horror mascot is kind of lame, especially when you compare him to like Jason or Freddy. Jason is like this hulking, deformed monster zombie that goes around killing camp counselors because of his trauma. Now that is a horror mascot. And then of course Freddy is like probably the best one out there. He kills kids in their dreams, which allows the directors and the writers to get as creative as they want. Not to mention that Freddy has the most charisma out of any of these horror movie icons.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big breaking TV. Welcome to prime time, bitch.
Freddy wins. You know, Freddy wins being the best horror movie mascot. Unless it's Freddy versus Jason. And then I guess in that case he loses.
Tell me something. What kind of faggot runs around in a Christmas sweater?
But my point is this, okay? Jason and Freddy are great horror monsters. They're kind of like the 80s versions of like a Frankenstein or a Wolfman or a Dracula or whatever. And Michael Myers, you know, like I said, he's just some guy in a mask. So I think the idea of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is actually pretty awesome. Having a completely different horror story that revolves around Halloween. That's cool. But apparently people at the time didn't like that, and this movie was critically panned, and also didn't make as much money as the first two Halloween movies. So after this one, they went on to bring Michael Myers back, in a bunch of movies that look very boring that I don't have any interest in watching. But when it comes to Halloween 3, you know, what did I think about it? Did I think this movie was good? Yeah. I actually think that Halloween 3 is a really solid horror movie. It's very well directed, and the atmosphere of this movie is amazing. And that's mainly because John Carpenter did the soundtrack to this movie, and the soundtrack to this movie is so good. It sets this very sickening, dark atmosphere to the whole thing, and it really adds a lot to the movie. It's a very good soundtrack, very reminiscent to John Carpenter's Escape from New York.
Bliskin, what are you doing? Playing with myself. I'm going in.
In the movie, Tom Atkins plays a doctor. His ex-wife hates him, and he's kind of a shit dad. He gets his kids these shitty Halloween masks instead of the awesome Silver Shamrock masks.
What's the matter? Don't you like them?
Mom already got us masks. Silver Shamrock, look! Halloween, Halloween, Halloween.
Shut up!
But one day, an old guy holding one of those Silver Shamrock masks comes into the hospital, and he says some ominous things.
They're going to kill us. All of us. All of us.
And then soon, a guy in a suit comes into the hospital and kills the old guy. Tom Atkins tries to run after the guy in the suit, but then the guy in the suit gets into a car and then pours gasoline all over himself and then lights himself on fire. And after this, something doesn't sit right with Tom Atkins. He wants to look into the masks, into Silver Shamrock, and he does with the help of the old guy's daughter, Ellie. I bet you're wondering if they get into a romantic relationship in this movie.
What I mean is, if you'd feel more comfortable, I could sleep in the car. Be better on this floor anyway.
Where do you want to sleep, Dr. Chalice?
That's a dumb question, Miss Grimbridge.
So yeah, he avoids looking after his children leading up to Halloween and instead investigates this mystery involving masks and Silver Shamrock. Dumbass. And as the movie goes on, the mystery unravels and crazy shit happens and oh boy, Season of the Witch, Halloween 3. It's a pretty neat Halloween movie, and when I say Halloween, I don't mean the franchise, I mean the holiday. This movie really does feel like Halloween. I really love the look and the feel of this movie. And I really like how this movie is less so a horror movie about like a murderous killer and a mask, and more so a horror movie about a conspiracy and gang stalking, which I think is relatable. Throughout the movie, Tom Atkins is being watched at every corner by cameras and the guys in suits. And if anything, this movie is kind of like a meta critique on slasher movies, while also having the same slasher movie isms. This movie is kind of critiquing the subgenre that the first two Halloween movies helped to create.
The Immortal Classic, followed by the big giveaway at 9, brought to you by...
Come on.
What's the matter? Don't you have any Halloween spirit?
No.
The first half of the movie is like all build up. It's kind of slow, but it does a good job at creating a lot of suspense and a lot of mystery around, you know, Silver Shamrock masks.
this commercial.
And then the second half is when the movie gets really fucking good. Shit hits the fan, mysteries unravel, and you finally get to find out what's going on with these masks. Spoiler alert.
All you lucky kids with silver shamrock masks, gather round your TV set, put on your masks, and watch.
Honey, don't get too close. I think this whole thing is a big joke. I mean, look.
What the fuck?
Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock. Try to get that out of your head, you fucks. The masks rot your brain. That scene is actually pretty horrifying. Like, it is a pretty fucked up scene. And the reason why this Silver Shamrock company is doing this is because, it's a funny joke, I guess.
I do love a good joke, and this is the best ever.
What?
Also, it's witchcraft, I guess. Something to do with the planets or something.
Witchcraft. To us, it was a way of controlling our environment. In the end, we don't decide these things, you know. The planets do.
It's kind of weird, kind of dumb, maybe even, but I can't deny that the whole concept is pretty sickening. It's able to get under your skin in a way, and I think that's pretty impressive. And when Tom Atkins finds out what's going on, he tries to call his wife, and she's pissed at him.
No, I'm not drunk. Listen, you have to get rid of the mask. Just...
That's what you get for not being a good dad, Tom Atkins, you fuck. You should have been there to protect your kids from those masks. That's why God made fathers, you idiot. You know this already.
That's why God made fathers, babe. That's why God made fathers.
And I think overall this movie is pretty good, albeit a little bit messy. I do kind of like it. I like the mystery. I like the sickening feeling this movie gives me. I guess that makes me a masochist. It's a very solid horror movie, though. I really do like it. It's a horror movie about how slasher movies rot your brain. And it almost gets you to think that that's the reason why slasher movies are pushed so heavily to younger audiences. The scariest thing about slasher movies aren't some masked killer. It's the way of thinking that you adapt from watching so many of them. This movie is pretty good. I think the only problem with it is the title. You shouldn't have put this in the Halloween franchise. I'd give Halloween 3 Season of the Witch a 7 or maybe an 8.
Enjoy the horror-thon, Doctor. And don't forget to watch the big giveaway afterwards.
Now it's time to talk about one of the greatest zombie movies ever made. And honestly, one of the best horror movies of the 80s, or even ever. I'm talking about The Return of the Living Dead. The movie starts at a medical supply warehouse where a new employee named Freddy is learning the ropes. It's a job that involves everything dead.
How many people you know die with a beautiful, perfect set of choppers in their puss, huh?
Nobody I can think of.
Yeah. No, I think that there's a skeleton farm over in India. Jesus. Come on, kid.
And while on the job, Freddy asks his mentor what's the weirdest thing to happen there.
I have seen weird things come, and I have seen weird things go. Did you see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
Yeah. That's the one where the corpses start eating the people, right?
And his mentor explains that the movie Night of the Living Dead was actually based off of true events. Zombies are real. And the mentor explains how they got a shipment of these weird zombie bodies with toxins or something. And they're in the basement.
Oh, shit. Hey, these things don't leak, do they?
Leak? Hell no. These things were made by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
Meanwhile, Freddy's friends, a group of stereotypical 80s punks, are looking to party.
Hey, we gonna party tonight or what?
Yeah, we are gonna party.
Well, where? Where are we gonna party?
I don't know, somewhere.
Hey, we could go to the park.
Oh, no, we can't. The cops said they'd shoot us if we go back in the park.
Yeah, and I ain't in no mood to die tonight.
I like death.
I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death?
Yeah, so fuck up and die.
And they decide to wait for Freddy to get off so they can, they can party and stuff. But Freddy's taking a long time for some reason. So they decide to go hang out in the graveyard.
I just want to party.
And as the movie goes on, the toxins spread and zombies are made and...
It is a reanimated body. We don't have to
Enough to kill it.
How do you kill something that's already dead?
Well, how do I know, Fred? I don't know. Let me think.
They try to burn a zombie body, but then the toxins goes up into the air, then they make a huge rain cloud, and the rain comes down, and, you know, it infects the graveyard. Zombies. I'm talking about zombies here. Zombies are real. They happen. And like I said, I think this movie is easily one of the greatest horror movies out there. Definitely one of the best zombie movies out there. This movie was made by Dan O'Bannon, who is a great writer and director. He wrote Alien, which of course, you know, Alien is, you know, it's Alien. Everyone loves Alien.
I think we ought to discuss the bonus situation.
Right.
Brett and I,
He also helped write Total Recall, and that movie's great. And he also wrote a movie that I talked about all the way in the January video called Dead and Buried, which is a very underrated, awesome movie. And one of the things I really liked about that movie was how it balances tones very well. There's a lot of parts that are genuinely scary and disturbing, but then there's also a lot of parts that are kind of darkly comedic. And this movie does the same thing, but I think it does it 1,000 times better. This movie could be watched in two different ways. You could watch this movie as like your typical 80s horror movie, like a fun little romp that you kind of laugh at in a way.
I just want to party!
Or you could watch this movie as a straight-up horror movie that is actually scary. And either way, the movie still works. And that is the amazing thing with this movie. This movie is like one of the funniest movies ever made, but at the same time, it's also one of the scariest zombie movies ever made. It takes the zombie concept very seriously and keeps it as realistic as possible, which makes sense because this movie is actually based off of a true story. Yeah. It is. I promise you it is. Everything having to do with the zombies in this movie is so fucked up. And it's almost so fucked up that you can't help but laugh at the absurdity of it.
You know, it looks like rigor mortis is setting in.
Rigor mortis? What do you mean, rigor mortis?
Hey, God. You're dead. You're dead, man, and you're gonna turn into one of those things out there! No!
And the actors in this movie are playing it so seriously that it's so jarring. It's like, yeah, this is really fucked up, but because they're taking it so seriously, it's kind of hilarious. And I think that's because the movie is self-aware of the fact that people are going into this knowing it's a zombie movie, knowing that people know what zombies are. So when you get to all this fucked up shit involving rigor mortis, it's like, what the fuck? This movie even references Night of the Living Dead in this movie, you know, the first modern proper zombie movie. That movie actually exists in this movie's universe, so they try to use those rules to, you know, stop the zombies.
What the hell's going on, Bert? The brain! The brain! I hit the fucking brain!
Be a man, Frank, be a man.
Christ, it ain't dying!
I thought you said if we destroyed the brain, it'd die.
It worked in the movie!
Well, it ain't working now, Frank.
You mean the movie line?
I also really love the characters in this movie, like the boss character. He's treating the whole situation as if it's like a normal job or something, like it just works.
One of them in that warehouse on the other side of the graveyard.
Which warehouse?
The medical supply house.
Oh, shit! Shit!
All of the punk characters are pretty fun. You know, there's one that's called Trash. Yeah, her name is Trash.
Do you ever wonder about all the different ways of dying? You know, violently? And wonder, like, what would be the most horrible way to die?
Try not to think about dying too much.
Well, for me, the worst way would be for a bunch of old men to get around me and start biting and eating me alive.
I see.
First, they would tear off my clothes.
Let's get some light over here. Trash is taking off her clothes again.
I love Trash. You know, she's a great character. She's naked for most of the movie. And, you know, she
got a great ass!
And I think the inclusion of the punks in this movie is actually kind of genius. Because, like, what is a punk? You know, why do punks dress the way they do? It's like they're trying to embrace the horrific parts of society, the darker, scarier aspects. And in that way, instead of them being scared, people around them can be scared.
I mean, I got something to say, you know? What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.
And in a way, that's kind of how you feel when you watch this movie. Because this movie has so many fucked up scenes, so many jarringly disturbing ideas, that in a way, you just cannot help but find the absurdity of it all and laugh. This movie is great. It's genius, it's smart, and it's hilarious. While also having like the scariest zombies in a movie ever. Like the zombies in this movie are a real fucking threat. And they run, by the way. Yeah, I'm looking at you fucking in 28 Days Later. This is the first movie with running zombies, not you, you fuck.
But we were the first people to make zombies run, you know, and changed everything.
Hey, fuck you! I would give The Return of the Living Dead a 10 out of 10. It's perfect.
Rescue 7, come in. This is dispatch, over. Rescue 7, come in. This is dispatch. Do you copy, over?
Come in, dispatch. Send more paramedics.
The next movie that I watched in October is a personal favorite of mine. Another supposed true story. I'm talking about the German film Angst. And I just want to say right off the bat, if you have not seen this movie, go watch it. It's one of those movies kind of like Spoorloos, where the best way to experience it is to go into it knowing nothing. It's a little surprise, a little hidden gem. It's what the Germans call Kino. So yeah, go watch Angst. It's on YouTube somehow. Let's talk about this fucking movie.
Ich habe gedacht, länger kann ich es nicht mehr aushalten.
The movie starts with a man in prison. He's a psychopath, and he's been in prison for years for murder. But now he's getting out. And of course, as the movie goes on, you watch this reformed man try to blend back into society, trying to find his place in it. And along the way, he meets a new best friend, being this little dog. I'm just fucking with you. As soon as he gets out of prison, he wants to kill again.
Das Gefängnis ist zwar dazu da, dass man sich bessert. Aber diesen Zwang, einen Menschen zu quälen, den habe ich nie ablegen können.
And that is quite literally what this movie is. It's about a psychopath that gets out of prison and immediately he has the urge to kill. And as the movie goes on, he acts on those urges, all while you hear his inner monologue.
Sie haben mich angestarrt. Richtig provoziert haben sie mich.
It's very simple, and I think within its simplicity, it's able to be one of the most captivating movies of all time. This movie is a hypnotic experience for me. As soon as the movie starts, I'm locked in, and I'm ready to watch, and I can't take my eyes off of it.
Ich war gleich voll da.
This movie makes you feel like Will Graham from Manhunter, trying to get into the mind of a serial killer. Watch Manhunter.
Just you and me now, sport.
This is honestly one of my favorite movies of all time, and I think it's because of the directing. I love the directing in this movie. It is so fucking weird and all over the place, but it pulls you into the mind of this serial killer in the most immersive way possible. Like I said, it's very hypnotic, especially with this weird drony synth music playing in the background.
Als Kind habe ich mein Leben immer Angst haben müssen. Meine Mutter hat zuerst meinen Vater rausgeschmissen. Und mich hat sie versucht umzubringen. Sie hat mich in nasse Windeln gewickelt und ans offene Fenster gelegt. Ich sollte mich am offenen Fenster verkühlen und sterben.
This movie has literally top-tier filmmaking. And to add even more mystique to this movie, the director of this film never made another movie afterwards. This is the only movie he ever made, and it's fucking amazing. It truly feels like a one-of-a-kind experience. Like, this movie is unlike anything else. And I would say this movie is pretty terrifying, but terrifying in a mental way. You know, in the vast landscape of movies where a man goes out and kills people, it's really jarring to see one that is so realistic while also being so immersive like this. There's almost no dialogue in this movie. All you have is the psychopath's inner monologue. And because of that, you can't help but try to understand him in some way. I find it very interesting that all of his inner monologue is in past tense. But as the movie goes on, it's pretty clear that all of these inner thoughts are happening in the moment. So it almost feels like he's thinking of himself as some sort of prolific killer who needs to have his story told one day, and he's kind of imagining how that would feel. He's a guy so stuck in his head, so stuck in his ego, so stuck in this weird, demented, twisted fantasy that he developed when he was a child. And let's just say his childhood wasn't sunshines and lollipops. It's almost like at a young age he realized that society and people are not worth a shit. And the only thing that is worth a shit is the things that make him happy, the things that fulfill him sexually, like killing people.
Wenn Sie mich nach meinen Träumen gefragt haben, habe ich Ihnen von Blumen erzählt. Blumen. Immer nur Blumen. Sonst aber habe ich meinen Fantasien freien Lauf lassen können. Das hat mir geholfen, diesen Drang einfach ein Ventil zu schaffen.
He wants to have control. He wants to make people scared. He basically wants to be God, trying to control life and death. The gore in this movie is ridiculously fucked. It is so visceral and sickening and disturbing, and I find it very interesting that after he gets the axe done, there's like a pretty long stretch of the movie where he doesn't think anything at all. It's like he's brought back down to reality almost, out of his ego, out of his fantasy. And the first bit of inner monologue you hear from him after this silence is him figuring out another way to continue this weird fantasy.
Ich wollte die Toten nicht so einfach im Haus zurücklassen. Ich habe den Plan gefasst, dass ich die Familie mit mir mitnehme.
And what's weird is that since this is a movie, and movies are supposed to be entertaining, this movie is very entertaining, and it does everything in its power to entertain you. But what are you being entertained with? You're being entertained by the most gruesome, most disgusting violence possible, which then asks the question, are you as bad as the psychopath? And while rewatching this back in October 2025, I had moments where I felt like I snapped out of the trance this movie put me in, realizing I've been really entertained by a psychopath killing people and trying to justify the killings with his trauma. And it made me think to myself, oh my god, I'm fucked up. And that's why I love this movie. It's very immersive. The horror almost comes from you as a viewer. I feel like this movie is best comparable to a painting. A disturbing, gross painting that you can't stop looking at. And the more you look at it, the more you realize how fucked up your thoughts can really get. You can also look at this movie as like a meditative thinking session about what makes a psychopath a psychopath. And I guess by the end of it, the answer is, a psychopath is a guy who puts his fantasy and his urges above everything else, not giving a single shit if he's ruining other people's lives.
Mit den Opfern kann ich kein Mitleid haben. Ich wollte weitermorden.
And I guess you could also watch this movie and laugh and enjoy every second of it as a fucked up, demented human being. This movie is kind of funny sometimes.
Die Idee, dass ich die Toten ständig bei mir haben könnte, hat mich unheimlich aufgeregt.
But I don't know, it's Angst, it's Angst. I would give Angst a 10 out of 10.
Alle haben jetzt Angst vor mir. Ich bin berühmt.
Video games. I like video games. I would say it's probably the most important art form of the last few decades. It's relatively new compared to music or movies. Back in the 80s, it was simple. Side-scrollers, jumping on enemies, getting power-ups, saving princesses. But as time has gone on, video games have changed. Nowadays, a lot of video games are very story-oriented, almost trying to be interactive movies. And in the 90s, Hollywood knew this, and they made a bunch of movie adaptations of video games. Movies like the Super Mario Bros. Movie, or the Mortal Kombat movie, or of course, the Resident Evil movie, which I actually kind of like the Resident Evil movie. I think it's a pretty fun action zombie movie, and recently I've actually been playing the old Resident Evil games. No! Fuck! No! Well, damn, dude. I'm all alone. God damn it. Fuck you! And honestly, that movie kind of fits in line with what the first few Resident Evil games feel like. It has that vibe, But when it comes to movie adaptations of video games as a whole, I think it's kind of stupid. I remember when I heard that they were making an Uncharted movie with Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. And when I found out, I wanted to kill whoever came up with that idea. Who the fuck thought that was a good idea? And I mean, overall, why would you adapt a story from a video game? Part of the reason why a lot of video game stories work so well is because of how interactive they are. It puts you into the story. Like, what's the purpose? And I think the big problem with movie adaptations of video games is this. I have watched a lot of movies and TV shows where I've said to myself, wow, that would make a good video game. But I have never played a video game and said to myself, wow, that would make a good movie. Except maybe for one video game franchise.
Was I dreaming?
Back in 2024, I played through the first Silent Hill game for the PS1, and I thought it was pretty good. Pretty much Silent Hill is like this town that's surrounded by evil energies, demonic spirits. I think they say it was built on an Indian burial ground or something, which, like, why would you build something on an Indian burial ground? That has never been a good idea. But pretty much in the game, you play as a guy named Henry Mason, who has an adopted daughter named Cheryl. And one day, Cheryl wants to take a vacation to this mysterious town called Silent Hill, and Henry Mason, being the good dad he is, decides to follow his daughter's instructions. But on the way, they get into a car crash, and Henry wakes up in this mysterious Silent Hill town, but his daughter is missing. So throughout the game, you have to basically find your daughter, running through a bunch of fog, fighting a bunch of monsters, going through a bunch of doors.
Hold it. Where do you think you're going?
My daughter. I've got to find her.
Take this, and hope you don't have to use it. Now listen to me. Before you pull the trigger, know who you're shooting, and don't go blasting me by mistake.
There's like two different versions of the Silent Hill world, one that's like a normal version and one that's like a hell version. As you play through the game, you find out there's a cult involved, a cult trying to resurrect an ancient god or something, and they decide to do that by using the body of a teenage girl. But I think that like splits her soul in two or something. One part of her soul is the thing that possesses the town, while the other part of the soul was put into Cheryl.
This is not a dream. What's happening to this place?
I don't fucking know, man. It's a very convoluted story, but I really did enjoy playing it. It's kind of confusing, like just a little bit. Maybe too many things going on. Cults, ghosts, monsters, fog, puzzles, drugs, psychic little girls.
What is this?
What's going on? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't really care much for the story in the first game. I thought it was serviceable. I did really like a lot of the gameplay, though. I liked, running around this town, going through these buildings, going through these doors, solving puzzles, killing these monster little kids. And I especially liked the last level of the game, which is like this place called Nowhere. It's a really trippy level where you don't know where the fuck you are and where you're going. And it almost makes you think like a crazy person, which I think is kind of awesome. But yeah, Silent Hill 1... it's fine. It's cool. It's interesting. It was cool to play a PS1 game, all the way through. But then at the start of 2025, I played Silent Hill 2.
In my restless dreams, I see that town. Silent Hill. You promised you'd take me there again someday, but you never did.
And I would say Silent Hill 2 is probably one of the best sequels ever. This game recontextualizes the whole Silent Hill town into something way more interesting and way more scary.
This town, there's something wrong with it. It's kind of hard to explain, but...
Is it dangerous?
Maybe.
Pretty much in this game, you play as James Sunderland, and pretty much he gets a note from his dead wife Mary telling him to meet her in Silent Hill, which makes no sense because she's dead.
That's what I keep telling myself. A dead person can't write a letter, so then why am I looking for her?
So you go to the town and you do all the classic Silent Hill stuff, running through fog, going through random buildings, opening doors, killing random monsters. But as you go on, you slowly uncover what happened to your wife. And let's just say things are not what they seem.
What's a little girl like you doing here anyway?
None of your business. You didn't love Mary anyway.
Wait! How do you know Mary's name?
You also meet a bunch of people throughout the game. You meet a woman named Angela that was abused by her father and her brother. And every time you meet her in the game, she gets more and more angry and defensive.
Angela, relax.
Don't order me around!
I'm not trying to order you.
I know what you're up to.
It's always the same. You're only after one thing.
No, that's not true at all.
You also meet a guy named Eddie who's a fat fuck.
This town is full of monsters. How can you sit there and eat pizza?
Ha! You're just a fatso.
And every time you meet him throughout the game, he gets more and more unhinged.
From now on, if anyone makes fun of me, I'll kill him. Just like that.
And those two characters are great because they're just like James, the main character, you. They winded up into this weird evil town, and now they're all going through their own personal hells. There's also another pretty great character in the game named Maria, and I guess she kind of represents like a sexier version of Mary, trying to make James realize something. Something.
Mary? Oh, Maria. It's you. I thought you were... Sorry. Anyway, I'm glad you're alive.
Anyway? What do you mean, anyway? Why didn't you try to save me? All you care about is that dead wife of yours. Don't ever leave me alone. You're supposed to take care of me.
This game is just so fucking well done, so well written. It gives you just enough to keep you going, but at the same time has a lot of mystique and weirdness about it. And the horror in this game is genuinely horrifying. There's a lot of creatures in this game that are genuinely pretty fucked up to look at, and they all represent something deep within these characters' minds. Like the star of this game, Pyramid Head. Everyone loves Pyramid Head. He's like a representation of James's guilt towards his wife and how he treated her. And yeah, he's pretty fucking horrifying. And the visual style of this movie, this very foggy... I just said movie. In the visual style of this video game, this very foggy, hazy town that's just dirty and grimy and everything, it's perfect. It's great. It's scary, while also being really sad and melancholic. This game has a real tragic sadness to it that is almost addictive. You just want to wallow in it, especially with the soundtrack of this game, which is fucking beautiful. One of the best video game soundtracks ever made. It's a soundtrack that I would listen to outside of the game because it's so fucking good. And that's the thing, the visuals, the story, the performances, the soundtrack, it's all so well done to the point where it's on the same level as some of the best movies out there. And you could make the argument that it's even better than those movies, seeing how this video game has multiple different endings depending on how you play. If anyone cares, I got the in water ending. If that means anything to anyone. There's also another ending where you find out that Silent Hill is controlled by a dog.
What?
But while playing Silent Hill, I did genuinely say to myself, wow, this would make a great fucking movie. And when I say that, I don't mean a movie about James or any of the other characters. I mean a movie about this weird, evil, demented town that draws people into it so it can feed off of their pain and sorrow. That would make a great movie and just a 1,000 great stories. But in 2006, they did make a Silent Hill movie. And I watched that in October of 2025. That's why I just spent all that time talking about video games. I'm not supposed to be talking about video games. I'm supposed to be talking about movies.
Sharon's adopted. But I'm her mother. I knew that from the moment I first laid eyes on her.
Now, the Silent Hill movie decides to borrow its story from the first Silent Hill game. The one with the convoluted story, the one that's not as good as the second game, the one that doesn't have Pyramid Head, even though this movie decides to use Pyramid Head, even though Pyramid Head only really works in the second game because it's related to James. Yeah, that one. The movie follows a mother by the name of Rose, and she loves her adopted daughter named Sharon. Not Cheryl, Sharon. And pretty much Sharon is having a bunch of weird nightmares.
We're going home.
Silent Hill! Rose!
And with that, Rose decides to bring her daughter to Silent Hill. And on the way there, they get into a car crash and she winds up in Silent Hill. Maybe next time the daughter should drive.
Honey, you awake?
Long drive.
But when Rose wakes up in Silent Hill, Sharon is missing, which leads Rose to go around Silent Hill trying to find her daughter. And while she goes through Silent Hill, she finds out about a cult, and scary stuff ensues.
What the
And honestly, this is not a bad adaptation of the first game. I would actually say this is probably one of the best video game adaptations out there. It is surprisingly faithful to what it's adapting, while also changing a few things to make it easy to follow. And this movie really does feel like Silent Hill, at least for the first half. The first half of this movie is classic Silent Hill hijinks. Rose runs around Silent Hill, goes through a bunch of buildings, encounters a bunch of monsters. They recreate some things from the first game, which is kind of cool. And I think the smartest thing this movie does is lift its soundtrack from the games. They use many of the songs from the games in this movie without really changing anything about them. And they actually got the original composer from the games to come back and make some new songs. And it makes for a really great little Silent Hill experience. Yes, there is a few things that don't really line up, like the fact that Pyramid Head is in this movie. It doesn't really make any sense. Pyramid Head is intrinsically tied to James and his story, but they decided to put him in this movie because, you know, it's Pyramid Head. Pyramid Head is an awesome creature design, and they just couldn't help themselves. They had to use him. He's only in the movie for a few scenes, and I think the scenes that he's in, you know, they're alright. There's one scene where he pulls the skin from some woman, and it's genuinely horrific. There is a bunch of scenes of the husband character going around the real world trying to find out things about Silent Hill, and it's okay, you know, it's whatever. Not really something you want to see from a Silent Hill movie, but it's fine. And I guess in some ways this movie is trying to say something, especially in the second half when the plot really starts going on. In the second half of this movie, you find out what's really going on around here, and it seems that this movie is trying to say something about, you know, religion, justice, right and wrong, sin, and what it means to be punished for your sins.
Many different forms of justice, Chris. So you got man's, God's, and even the devil's. Certain forms you just can't control.
You see, the evil cult in this movie is not an evil cult trying to resurrect an ancient god or anything like the first game. Instead, it's a group of crazy Christians that act like a cult. They believe all sin is punishable by fire, and they end up punishing this damaged little girl by burning her to death. All because they believe that she is the embodiment of sin.
You brought sin amongst us. The faithful must gather in judgment, for we are called to purify this filth.
But after they burn this little girl to death, her name is Alessa, she looks very similar to Rose's daughter, a demon comes along and takes physical form of Alessa.
Who are you?
I have many names. Right now, I'm the dark part of Alessa.
And decides to enact karma on this evil cult by turning the town of Silent Hill into a living nightmare. And this whole plot almost feels like a metaphor for like religious trauma or something, showing how damaging it can be when you tell a child, hey, there's a God out there and he's gonna punish you if you do anything wrong, if you sin. Especially when what's right and wrong doesn't come from God and instead comes from, you know, who's telling them this.
Mother is God in the eyes of a child.
If you tell a child they have to be all good, you know, that's not going to work out. Because eventually the bad has to go somewhere. And if the more that bad comes out, the more they get punished, then that bad part of themselves is going to get really fucking evil. They might do things like turn a whole town into hell. And overall, I thought this movie was pretty good. And in movie adaptations of video game terms, that means this movie was superb. You know, the bar is so low for video game adaptations, this movie is like Citizen Kane. I actually really like the directing of this movie quite a lot. I think it has a really nice visual style. Like, yeah, sure, it has some shitty 2000 CGI, but it's fine. Because the thing about Silent Hill 2 and also Silent Hill 3 is that they are so unabashedly 2000s. Playing those two games is like the equivalent of being in a mall in the 2000s next to a GameStop, all while you're wearing an Invader Zim hoodie and having your hair parted off to one of the sides, all while Paramore No Doubt is playing on the radio. And I think in that respect, this movie really does exude Silent Hill vibes. I like the Silent Hill universe, and I think this movie does it justice. Way better than whatever the fuck the newer Silent Hill games are doing. And you know, I would give Silent Hill 2006 a 7 out of 10. It's good. Who would have thought? It's good. There are other Silent Hill movies, but, you know, I'm not watching that shit. So check out the games, check out the movie, check out the soundtrack. They're all, you know, they're pretty great.
Crazy
It's now time for The Exorcist.
What an excellent day for an exorcism.
This movie is about a mother named Chris and her daughter named Reagan. And Chris is an actress trying to fix up a house for her and Reagan. But eventually Reagan comes across a Ouija board.
You really don't want me to play, huh?
No, I do. Captain Howdy said no.
Who's Captain Howdy?
You know, I make the questions and he does the answers.
Oh, Captain Howdy, I see.
And soon afterwards, Reagan starts acting pretty strange. She starts acting out, being a little bit evil.
What, specifically? What did she say?
She advised me to keep my fingers away from her. Goddamn cunt.
Meanwhile, there's also a priest named Father Karras, and he's going through a lot of struggles himself. His mother is dying, and he's kind of getting sick of the whole priest business. He's losing his faith.
I need reassignment, Tom. I want out of this job. It's wrong. It's no good. You're the best we've got.
But as Reagan's condition gets worse and worse, and Chris is trying to send her to all these doctors that don't know what the fuck is going on.
Please, Mother! We'll make it stop! He's trying to kill you! Mother! Take it!
We still think the temporal lobe.
Oh, what are you talking about, for Christ's sakes? Did you see her or not?
She decides that maybe this is not a mental health issue, but maybe a spiritual issue. So eventually she goes to Father Karras, begging for his help, and eventually that leads up to an exorcism. And this movie is really, really interesting. You know, it is one of the most critically praised horror movies of all time, and I honestly think that's because this movie feels less so like a horror movie, and more so like a drama about faith. This movie was done by William Friedkin, who I talked about a few times in this series before, with Sorcerer and The French Connection. And those movies have something to latch on to, something to keep you watching, a non-stop chase towards a goal. And what's interesting is that this movie is almost the exact opposite of those movies, where there is really no goal here. It's really just a bunch of hopelessness. This movie is fucking depressing. All of these scenes where Chris tries to bring her daughter to all these doctors, and they don't know what the fuck to do, and they keep doing all of these weird experiments on her, all these therapies. It's like Chris in this movie is losing faith in the hospital system, losing faith in doctors and medicine, to the point where she really doesn't have any other choice but to get a priest. And it makes it even more hopeless seeing how the priest that she gets is a guy who doesn't even believe in what he's doing anymore.
And you know that, Tom. Some of their problems come down to faith, their vocation, the meaning of their lives, and I can't cut it anymore. I need out. I'm unfit. I think I've lost my faith, Tom.
He's losing faith in the mission that is being a priest, especially when his life starts falling apart around him. And it's just all so fucking depressing and hopeless. It's just so sad. It's like you're just waiting for someone to come in and just fix all of it, but it's not there. It's so weird because you're going into this movie expecting an exorcism.
To confront this cruel demon.
But instead, you get The Exorcist.
Hold her steady. Hold her tight.
There's no
And of course, this movie is very influential for the horror genre, specifically the subgenre of horror being exorcism movies. You know, like The Conjuring. Every exorcism movie pretty much rips off this movie, without being as smart as this movie. There's a line in the beginning of the movie which I think is really interesting, and kind of explains what this movie is trying to do, where some character says, evil versus evil. There's also a lot of stuff in this movie about movies. You know, Chris is an actress, and also the inspector in this movie loves film, I guess.
Yeah, I love to talk film.
And in a way, this movie kind of feels like a horror movie, you know, a genre that people think is evil, that attempts to instill the importance of faith, Christ, God into the audience, by making it as realistic as possible to the point where you can't help but have an emotional reaction to it.
If you want to affect any change, you have to do it within the
Because you could watch this movie without any faith in Christ and God or demons or whatever, and look at Reagan's possession as a huge psychosis episode, where she truly believes she is possessed, so she is acting like a demon. You know, all this stuff kind of starts after Reagan's birthday, where her father doesn't even call in to check on her or say happy birthday or anything. So it kind of seems like this whole possession is just an excuse for Reagan to act out. you know, if you want to watch the movie like that. But as an audience, knowing this movie is about demons and it's called The Exorcist, you're just waiting for someone to come in and say, yep, this is a demon problem, and fix it all. This movie is actively making you want to see the faith, to see God, to see Christ, to see these things that will fix this demonic problem. You know, Jesus Christ, he died for our sins. We are forgiven as long as we accept him as our Lord and Savior. I do. And God, of course, is, you know, good. And this movie by the end almost kind of feels like it's saying, in order to restore your faith in good, you have to come face to face with evil. An evil that is so evil that you can't help but act out and do something about it. As much as you should rely on God for a lot of things, sometimes the one thing he wants you to do is to act out towards evil and stop it once and for all. It's really fucking powerful. It really is. This movie is a very powerful, you know, religious movie, while also not looking at the whole situation entirely in a religious manner, which I think is really fucking interesting. It's so weird. And it is a great movie. It's fantastic. It's so well written, but it's also very depressing for the most part. And because of that, you know, this is not a movie that I would want to watch over and over again. I would probably give The Exorcist like a 4 or maybe a 4.5. You know, I don't know.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
I watched the new Chainsaw Man movie. Anime. Hell yeah, anime. You know, I feel like there's two types of people in this world. People who started to watch anime back in like middle school, and people who just don't like anime. Personally for me, I really liked anime in middle school. The first one I ever watched was Death Note, and that shit is peak.
I'll take a potato chip and eat it.
Now that is a perfect anime. I don't care what anyone says. Death Note is awesome.
This is the first time in my life that I've been provoked to hit a woman.
And as time has gone by, I have watched many more animes. Some of them are pretty great, some of them, you know, forgettable as fuck. Nowadays, though, I feel like I've seen all of the best animes. So I'm not that compelled to check out new ones. But a few years ago when Chainsaw Man came out, I did watch that one. And in 2025, a Chainsaw Man movie was premiering at one of my local cinemas, and I went to go see it, which means I have to explain what Chainsaw Man is about. Pretty much in Chainsaw Man, every fear is personified into a living devil. Any fear you can think of. And pretty much there's an organization that goes against these devils that is ran by this mysterious, maybe evil woman named Makima. And if Makima looks familiar to you, but you have never seen Chainsaw Man, then that means you jerk off too much. And pretty much in the show, the main character's name is Denji. He's like a homeless loser guy. He's very lonely, and he doesn't have any friends except the Chainsaw Devil. He's like a little pet for Denji. He's kind of cute. And pretty much in the show, I think Denji dies or something. And because the Chainsaw Devil really loves Denji, he goes inside of Denji and becomes Denji's new heart. And after that, Denji reluctantly starts working with the organization that goes against the devils, because he ends up developing a huge crush on Makima. And throughout the show, they fight devils and stuff. And, you know, there's the gun devil. He's like the big bad guy. And you know, yeah, it's Chainsaw Man. He's a normal human guy, but his heart is a devil. And like I said, I did enjoy the first season of Chainsaw Man. I thought it was fine. To be fair, though, it's very derivative of every other anime that's coming out nowadays. Like, have you guys noticed this? How every anime is kind of the same now? Every anime is about a group of people trying to fight devils or ghosts or demons. There's the main character who's kind of aloof and eccentric, and then you have the other guy who's like a silent, badass guy who's edgy. And then you have the girl of the group who isn't the main love interest, but a good friend to the main character. All animes are the same! But like I said, I did see the new Chainsaw Man movie, and now I am contractually obligated to talk about it. The movie starts with a dream that Denji keeps having that he can never remember. He's walking in a corridor and he sees a door, and behind the door he can hear the Chainsaw Devil. And he really wants to open the door so he can see him again, but the voice behind the door says, "You can never open this door." And then he wakes up from the dream. Anyway, afterwards, one of the worst songs I've ever heard in a movie ever starts to play.
Turn it off.
Turn it off! Bastards! Why are you torturing me like this? Why? I wish I was dead!
Denji is then called into Makima's office, where she goes on to ask Denji on a date. And on the date, they decide to go theater hopping, watching a ton of different movies. And this is the point of the movie where I started to give it a chance. What can I say? I love movies. After this date, Denji realizes he has a heart, and his heart beats for Makima. But eventually this love gets tested by a random woman named Reze, who runs into Denji in a phone booth. And eventually Denji starts to reluctantly catch feelings for Reze. A girl is flirting with him and seems to have a lot of interest in him. Of course he's going to be in love. He's never felt this before. And as the movie goes on, Reze continues to love bomb Denji. Fuck! These animes are the same! And tries to get him to run away with her. But of course, you know, his heart beats for Makima. And after realizing she can't get Denji to fall in love with her, she reveals herself as the Bomb Devil, and she works for the Gun Devil. And pretty much the rest of the movie is basically this really awesome chase/fight scene against Denji and Reze. And honestly, I would say this might be my favorite movie of 2025. I really, really liked this movie. I thought it was really great. What can I say? You know, the Japanese, they always end up winning over my heart. You know, after watching so many animes, I was kind of worried about this movie. Like, there's so many cliches and cringe shit that's in a lot of these animes that I just was not ready for. But weirdly enough, this movie is able to do all of that cliche, cringe shit, but in a way that seems genuinely smart and kind of emotional. There's specifically one scene in this movie that is really fucking well done, and it's the infamous pool scene. No, not that anime pool scene. The Chainsaw Man one. And this scene is really great. It hits all of those cliche beats, but there's also like a weird self-aware aspect to it. You know, Denji, he's having all these feelings for Reze, but you know, he still loves Makima, and he's all conflicted. But the confliction really starts when he sees Reze naked, because she wants to go skinny dipping. And that leads him to finally let loose, you know, to finally jump in and to enjoy this lovely company. It's so well done, it's so funny, but at the same time it's genuinely emotional, because it's kind of what love is to someone who is, you know, super dejected. You know, you're reluctant because you think, oh, love, that's cringe. But sometimes you can't help those feelings, you know, you can't help having some feelings.
Nothing like a good feeling. You know? Did you say nothing like a good feeling? Yeah, nothing like a good feeling. I guess so.
And I also think this movie really demonstrates why Chainsaw Man is so great. And it's because of the main character, Denji. He is a great main character, because he's basically the same as all of the losers watching this anime. He's a lonely incel chud who desperately wants female attention, but, you know, he's a weirdo. And yeah, the romantic stuff in this movie is genuinely emotional. Some of the best romantic shit I've seen in a movie in a long, long time. And as soon as the action stuff starts, this movie gets batshit insane in the best way possible. The action in Chainsaw Man is kind of your typical anime action, but it also has this weird demented energy to it that is really awesome. Way more fun and entertaining than most other action animes out there nowadays. There's also a bunch of other great characters in this movie. There's the shark guy, I think his name is Beam or something. And when you first meet him, you think he's going to be annoying as shit, but then as the movie goes on, you actually like him more than the other characters. He's kind of awesome. There's also like this angel devil guy who I kind of find interesting. I like his character because he's so indecisive and he doesn't want to do anything that he doesn't have to, which completely makes sense because he is an angel devil. He is like a living contradiction. You know, the sword guy is cool, I guess. The animation for the most part is pretty awesome. When I was watching this in the theaters, I just said to myself, wow, this is the only movie I'll see in the theaters that has a scene where a Chainsaw Man rides a shark into a typhoon baby.
What?
It's fucking awesome, you know, this is the power of cinema. I also really love the ending of this movie because it reminds the audience that this movie is a romance. And in a way kind of recontextualizes Chainsaw Man as a whole as just a romantic story. Or more so a story about a guy who really wants love, really wants romance, all while everything around him is telling him that romance and love is shit.
俺が知り合う女がさ全員俺んこと殺そうとしてんだけどみんなチェンソーの心臓ばっか欲しがっちゃってチェンチーの心臓は欲しかねえのか
But that's what makes him a good character, you know? He doesn't look at the bigger picture, he focuses on the small thing. And he refuses to give up on the want to be loved. And that's just so nice, you know, it's wholesome. And I mean, overall, I would give Chainsaw Man the movie like a 7 or an 8 out of 10.
いつかデンジ君にはぴったりな女の子が現れるよ。
And the last movie that I watched in October is a George A. Romero movie. You can't have the month of Halloween without Romero. I watched Monkey Shines. This movie is about a man named Alan. He's an athlete and he has a beautiful wife. He loves to run, specifically with cinder blocks in his backpack. But one day when he's taking a morning jog, he gets hit by a truck. And this causes Alan to be stuck in a wheelchair, paralyzed from the neck down. And after this, you know, everything sucks. You know, everything's awful.
Linda's dumping me. She didn't come out and say it, but, no, I can tell.
Hey, if she walks out on you now, fuck her.
I can't.
His wife ends up cheating on him with the doctor that performed his surgery.
Oh, fucking bitch. She came to pick me up.
Well, I'll be damned. How do we diagnose this one, Wiseman? Clinical asshole syndrome? Clinical rat? Clinical snake in the grass syndrome?
Come on, Jeffrey.
And you clinical cunt.
But Alan still has one best friend left, and his name is Jeffrey. He's a scientist, and he does experiments on a bunch of monkeys, trying to make monkeys smart. And after Alan wallows in misery for a while...
Look, Halloween! Oh, you just refused to wear that costume we bought for you.
You wanted to go as that robot from the movies, what's his name?
Robbie the Robot. I always wanted to be Robbie the Robot. Guess I finally got my wish.
Jeffrey comes in and gives him a monkey, a support monkey named Ella.
You serious? You're giving me a monkey? How am I supposed to take care of it, Jeff?
The idea is that it's going to take care of you.
And as the movie goes on, it's kind of like a weird love story between Alan and this monkey. It's kind of awesome, you know. Only Romero could make a movie about the relationship between a man and a support monkey. But of course, as the movie goes on, things go wrong, monkey business happens. Turns out Ella is a little too smart for her own good, and Alan adopts his telepathic connection with her.
I've had the most horrible thoughts lately. It's like vomiting up every resentment I ever had. Every ugly, vicious, sinful. It's what it is. It's sin.
And I really, really liked this movie. You know, Romero, he's known as like one of the godfathers of horror, you know. People know him as the guy who created zombies. But honestly, I feel like Romero's strong suit has always been characters. He's always able to craft really emotional and sincere stories with the characters in his movies. You know, for the first half of this movie, it feels like life is kicking Alan in the balls. Except he can't feel it because, you know, he's paralyzed from the neck down. But, you know, it feels like everything's going wrong for him. He loses his wife. His mother is an overbearing asshole, and he gets a terrible, terrible bitchy nurse, a clinical cunt.
You're Alan's nurse? God has given me that burden, yes.
So when he finally gets the monkey and he gets Ella and everything, it's kind of nice. They have a real relationship with each other, you know. This is some of the best monkey acting you're going to see in a movie ever. But as the movie goes on, you know, Alan, he starts having romantic feelings for the monkey support trainer, Melanie. And they start to develop like a romantic relationship and stuff. There's actually a really awesome scene in this movie where Alan eats Melanie's pussy. I dare anyone to show me a cunnilingus scene better than this. It's fucking powerful, you know? It's a fucking powerful scene. It's awesome. But that's the thing. Ella doesn't want Alan to get better. She wants him to continue to rely on her. And that's kind of where the horror comes from in this movie. When you're in a tough situation and your life sucks, you know, it's really nice to have something to rely on. Especially when everyone around you is an asshole and wants you to act a certain way, even though you're depressed, you're in a wheelchair, your life sucks. Of course you're gonna choose the monkey over people, you know, fuck people. But what happens when the love between you and your monkey gets a little bit too serious? What happens when your monkey starts doing things evil to try to, you know, make you happy? What if the thing you once relied on tries to keep you reliant? And that's what I like about this movie, you know. The monkey almost represents the past in this movie. Wallowing in the past, hating everything that happened, and wanting justice against the people that wronged you. Almost tearing you away from the hope of anything better to come along.
That son of a bitch. Ego fucking maniac.
I don't understand this reaction. You're letting the bad news overshadow the good. There's hope, Alan, not false hope, real hope. Just when things might turn your way. I don't like this change in you, Alan.
Eventually, you have to disconnect yourself from the monkey. Because if you don't, you might turn just as evil and savage as the monkey. And yeah, I mean, I really like this movie. It's pretty awesome. It kind of made me realize why I love Romero's movies so much. It's because all of his movies are basically dramas disguised as horror movies. Dawn of the Dead is almost like a drama about what happens when all of the things you always wanted from the mall and from the shops and stuff don't mean anything anymore.
You should see all the great stuff we got, Franny. All kinds of stuff. This place is terrific. It really is. It's perfect. All kinds of things.
Martin is a drama about how your upbringing affects you. Day of the Dead is a drama about what to do after you've exhausted every possibility. That's why I love Romero's movies. You know, they're so relatable because they are intrinsically human stories. And Monkey Shines is no different. And I would give Monkey Shines like a 7 or maybe an 8 out of 10. And that is all of the movies I watched in October. A lot of fucking movies. What can I say? You know, I love horror movies, and in October I just couldn't help myself. I just had to keep watching them. I don't really know why I like horror movies so much. I think, you know, it's a combination of a lot of different things. I think for one, some of the most genuine films out there are horror movies. It's kind of a genre that lets you do whatever you want with it, you know, it's pretty cool. Another thing I like about horror movies is just how simple they can be. You know, in a world where good and bad, it can be very blurry sometimes. It's nice to watch a movie where the lines are very clear. There are bad guys, murderers, psychos, and there are good guys, you know, normal people just trying to survive. Good versus evil, you know, if only it was that simple. One thing is for sure, though, my head hurts from talking about so many movies. So yeah, that's it. It's over. This video, it's done. And if you're still watching this video, then, you know...
It's still running. Stop it, please. For God's sake, please stop it. There's no more time. You've got to... Please, stop it. Stop it now. Turn it off. Turn it off. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.